Good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be doing a bit of work with direct cut on the CM. So I've already pulled out a few paper pads that we can play with, and I'll just wait for a few people to show up before I get started. So morning Deb, and if you're watching, Lucy, please say hi. Morning Carol. And hopefully Mum will be along shortly. So I'm working with the Paper Boutique Lovely Days collection, which I really like. I must admit I got it as a treat to myself, and I thought at the time when I bought it, I won't show this on stream, I'm just going to keep it for me. But this morning I am feeling awfully generous. And plus there's lots of different things that we can play with it. Morning Sally. So, a few people in the room, let's get started. So, you may wonder why I've pulled out two of the same pad that's just different sizes. That's because I want two different sizes of butterflies. And we also have a few other bits and pieces that we can try. You will need, at some point, some tracing paper. So, I'm just going to be using the Paper Mail Direct, and I'll put my teeth in. Like translucent paper, but you can just use normal tracing paper and that is absolutely fine. Just mine's gone walkies. So let's start with our butterflies. Now before I start with that size, I'm going to go up to the big size. Mainly because it should be a little bit easier for you to see on screen. So let's find my butterfly paper. There we go. So, with this pad, or pads I should say, I'm planning on making a bit of a mini album. So we can use our pattern papers to actually bring some of those elements actually into our design by using our direct cut feature to actually cut out elements from our pattern papers. And you get a few sheets of each in the pad, so it's not like you can't have that paper anywhere else. And let's get started. So, while yesterday we were using the scan mat, for direct cut you always use your cutting mat. Now, because this is such a big piece of paper, and there's lots of butterflies in this centre section, I can take it up to this top edge. If you're working with your 6x6 pad, I would advise that you move it in so you have an inch gap around, so that we're bringing it in. Now also, because it's a pattern, you're going to have elements that go off the edge, and that is absolutely fine, so don't think that it's going to start trying to cut these out unless you tell it to. So we're going to focus on this centre area here, and let's load that into the machine. Okay, and let's change view. So, one, a small screen. I'm just going to tilt that one so you can see that. Morning, Linda. It's very quiet today. So what we may end up doing next week is I'm going to see if I can start scheduling the events again, because that seems to attract more people, and we like to add new friends all the time, don't we? So I'm going to go to scan, and this time rather than go to scan to cut data like we did yesterday, we're going to go to direct cut, and it's going to ask you a question. It's asking whether you want the machine to trace the image or if you want Canvas to do it. So if you have something like the enhanced image tracing, at this point you can send it to Canvas and use that. So that's useful if you have something that's been really difficult to get it to trace. If you don't want to use the tracing paper method, you can send it that way. It's also Sometimes if you get almost the right trace but not quite, sometimes if you send it to canvas you get that slightly clearer view of being able to actually manipulate that trace. Morning Mum, and morning Charlotte from South Africa. What time is it there, Charlotte? Okay, so I'm going to use the machine. Save faffing about going to display. If you want me to show you the enhanced image tracing, do pop it in the comments and I can show you that next week. So, recognition mode. Now, as we know from yesterday, black and white is when it's high contrast, colour when it's low contrast. So I'm going to try it in black and white first, but it may just pick up that grid that's in the background of our paper. So if I try and zoom this in a little bit, you can see there's a really soft grid in the back of the paper. Hopefully. If that's not quite big enough, let me know. I can zoom in a bit more actually. There you go. So hopefully you can see there that there's like a grid line that goes through and across. Let's zoom back out. Okay, so we're going to press play and it's going to go through. Ian's at work already. He literally started at the same time as I did, so it was just easier for me to just start it all from scratch. And morning Thea. Hi Mum. You're watching on Facebook now. YouTube playing up. Or you're just hopping. Okay. So when we've done that we can get OK. And you can see it's going to pull up a few of our butterflies, not all, but a few. Now, if you want to cut out that many butterflies, that's great, but the chances are you don't really want to. So, I'm going to pull my window in, especially on that left-hand edge. I'm going to pull that right-hand edge in and up. Okay, so I've got, I probably don't even need that many butterflies at this moment. Let's go up to there. So you'll see at the moment it's still got all those other ones that did trace outlined until you press preview. There you go. So now it's got the 4 and it's got a little tiny fleck of something just there. We can have a look at that in a bit. Now with the paper, if we actually look in real life so to speak, we can see that there is enough room to put an offset if we want to. Not much you want, but there is room. So we can go to offset and we can just go to the minimum distance. Now you're going to see that the little bit that's picked up is also going to get bigger. So if that starts to encroach on your designs, then you may want to consider taking that away. But I think we should be okay. Let's go OK. And now we can go and zoom in. Okay, if we go up to 400%, we can see that although it looks like those lines are touching, they're not quite. There's still a slight gap there, and a slight gap there, and a slight gap there. So we should be okay. And also a little bit over here, we should be able to knock out using ignore object size. So ignore object size basically means that anything that size or smaller isn't going to cut. So I'm going to take it up, and you'll notice that when you get high enough, it's going to go so it's like greyed out. So if I go OK, let's zoom in again. You can see it's not quite as dark, so we should be okay. Now you do have some other options in here that I'm going to come to in a bit, which is where we can start to use shapes around what we've scanned rather than going and following that contour. But first of all, let's cut out these butterflies. I'm going to go OK. Oh, one other thing. let's go back a second. You'll notice that you also have your premium functions available at this point. So, if you have the foiling kit, if you have a glue pen for your universal pen holder, or if you have the foil quill, you can actually foil that outline too. So if you want to create a nice foiled border, you can do. If you want to emboss it, it's a little bit more fiddly. So I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to go cut. Now, blade setting, the fun bit. This is actually quite thick card, so it's 160 GSM, but it feels more like sort of 200, one of those. So I think I'm going to try it 4, and we'll see how we go. Okay. Oh, let's play. And off we pop. Let's see how we did. So you always want to check your cut before you go and unload your mat, so that you know whether everything is okay or not. Okay, so let's pop that there for a minute just so I can get my spatula, and let's pop off these butterflies. So we have our butterfly with a little bit of offset around it. So offsetting can also be used to smooth a scan. So if you're finding that you're getting lots of jagged edges, particularly on things that shouldn't have jagged edges like rectangles and things, then you can use offset to smooth those off a little bit. Okay. If you have any questions at any point, you're all welcome to ask. So while I'm here, and I've just done that one, I'm going to grab my 6x6 version, and let's go a little bit smaller so you can see the difference. So I'm going to go OK and home to reset. So this time we're working with a smaller paper, so we're going to move it in so that we have a nice area to work with. Now, if we do that same amount of offset, it's going to have that same amount of border, but these butterflies are smaller. So what I would say is, don't do an offset on the smaller version, because otherwise it's going to look a bit weird. And also, because this distance is now less, you run the risk of actually still crossing over those offsets. So I'm going to go to scan, direct cut, and we know that mode worked last time, so we'll go. Okay, so it's going to think about it. Go OK, and there you are. So it's pulled up some of the butterflies, but again, not all of them. We're going to drag in our window because we don't necessarily want all of those butterflies, and drag in that top edge, like so. Go preview. So now if we zoom in, we can see, okay, there's something a little bit wrong here. So what do? We're going to move that window and not use that one. Go preview. Now if you're desperate to use that one, that's when you would go to your tracing paper. But for this, I just need a couple. So as I said when I was saying about the offset, we're not going to add that one. I'm going to go to preview again because we did a little bit of move. Do a zoom in again, and if there's little bits it's picking up, we're just going to go into ignore object size and take that up a little bit, just so that we know it's missing those out. And we'll go okay, okay. And when we go to cut, we can see that we just have our two butterflies. Once you've scanned the images in, can you then resize them to use as a stencil, for instance, instead of cutting them out? Okay, if you wanted to do that, you would use the scan to cut data rather than direct cut, because you are scanning something to cut it out of something else. So go back to yesterday's video and follow those instructions instead, and then yes, you can do that, definitely. So if you wanted to do a stencil that matched your paper, I'd also, it might be a good idea to take it into Canvas so that you can split it up by colour as well. Certainly with something like the centres of the butterflies, for instance, where you've got this coloured section, you could trace that with a pen tool quite quickly. The detailed section might be a little bit more fiddly stencil wise, just because you need to have that bridge somewhere. So it might be that you take a little bit out of this really fine top arm of the butterfly. So what I'm saying about that, just try and keep it kind of general to most designs. So look for the simple blocky shape, and you can use that really easy as a stencil. If it's finer detail, look for where you can build your bridges so that you can get all this really fine detail in. And as you say, Carol, scale is important, so you're not going to do a stencil without much detail that small. So do resize it in Canvas and go from there. And do your resize of your image before you try and do your pen trace. You'll find it much easier. And off we go. And we'll cut that out. Okay, and hopefully we can get that off. There we go. And I'm setting those pieces of paper aside so that we can do other things with them too. Like pockets. Okay, so next let's go for something that is apart but on a coloured background, because sometimes this can fall, this can go up. So I'm going to come in from this edge again, just because. I'm going to go OK and home to reset, scan, direct cut, use the machine, and I'm going to keep it on black and white and let's see how it goes. So I'm hoping it's going to go, oh no, I can't see that. So I can show you the difference between the black and white and the colour. So we're going to go OK. Oh, it's done quite a good job actually. Typical, because I wanted to go no, do colour. So we're going to bring this right arm up. And because we've got much clearer traces done down this corner, I'm going to bring that down there, like so. Go to preview. Okay. So now we're going to go to ignore object size to knock out all these little bits. And you'll notice this always resetting back to that default amount. And as I get bigger, you're going to see that more and more bits go grey. There we go. And I'll go OK. OK. And now you can decide again if you want to put that offset on. There's plenty of room. So I'll go to the second amount. OK. And there we go. And again, we can go to cut. Okay. And very carefully take off my paper. And there we have some little flower embellishments that we can use. Okay, now that we've done those, let's move on to our cutter parts. There we go. So with a cutter part sheets, usually what you would do is you'll put them in your trimmer and you would literally cut straight up and across. And then occasionally you do get some shaped ones that you might want to try and do with your Scan and Cut. So let's see how it goes. Because it goes off the edge, again I'm using that 1-inch rule. So you can see our edges. Now what the Scan and Cut can't do is be a paper trimmer. So it is not going to do open lines, and unfortunately just do that. So if it does see these outside lines, it potentially will cut your mat just there. So be very cautious when you're placing your window so as to not get a cut line that goes down this outside edge of your paper. Otherwise potentially you could damage your mat. Okay, so I'm going to go back home. Let's go close cam. And pattern. Hi Angela! Why did I go pattern? There you go. That's me not concentrating. Concentrate, nothing. Direct cut machine. And let's try black and white first. Just because I want it to go wrong. So I can show you how to fix it. It's going to be one of those, isn't it, where no matter how hard I try to break it, it's going to behave. Being led on that gaffer tape works very well. Yes, we have a cutting mat that came from one of my students, which had a lovely row of ducks cut out of the bottom of it, and yeah, that's how to go with duct tape. Unfortunately, she'd since lost the row of ducks, so it has duct tape both on front and back. But so long as you stay away from the bottom, which was where the ducks were cut out of, works absolutely fine. So I tend to use that one when there's something that I'm worried might ruin a mat, because at the end of the day it's got a hole in it, so can't really do much more damage. Okay, so we can see here it's found our pale panel but without the pink outline. It can see the love, but it can't see the box around it. It can see centres of the flowers, which is really bizarre, but it can't see the actual main design because it goes off that edge. It can see our rose embellishment up here. So what you could do with that is, actually, should I just show you? I'll give you an idea. Because I think we have a few, do we get 2 of everything in this one? Ooh, 6 of everything, that'd be cool. Right, so I'll show you how to do that. So just because you can, I'm going to shrink that up here. And then once I've cut these out, I'm going to show it you in colour as well. I'm going to go preview. Okay. It's still picking up a few little bits and pieces. So I'm going to go into ignore object size first and take those out. I'm going to go OK. And I'm going to go to cut. Now the paper is the same paper, so I can just get that to go. Okay, so I'm going to go OK. I'm going to go home. I'm not going to remove anything from the mat because I want you to be able to see the difference that going to colour is going to make, because it will see different things. So again, we can frame the image if we want to. Let's bring that in a bit. I'm going to go OK. So when we go in colour and we're moving that frame, that's actually going to cut down on the time that it spends recognising. So particularly if you have a dirty mat or a mat that has a more solid grid, then you're going to want to do that. If there's one particular element that you want it to look at, you can literally shrink the window so it goes around just one element if you like. And that'd be quicker still. So you can see now that it looks totally different. And what it's actually doing is it's looking for 5 colours and it's saying that those 5 colours are one object. That's the best way I can describe it. So rather than it going, okay, there's 5 colours and I'll cut each colour individually, it's kind of using it as a threshold rather than a separator. So if we take it down and go to preview, you're going to find that changes again. What it should do. Making it think now. So next week I'm probably going to be doing a bit of work in Canvas so that we can have a little play with the new fill page function, but also I want to be kind of introducing you to the challenge file as well, because it won't have any instructions. So I'm going to show you a few ideas with it. So you can see by reducing it to 2, it's pulled out a few other bits and pieces. Our butterfly has definitely changed shape, and we've got more definition coming in here. But what that actually is it's where the ambient light is interfering with the scan. So if you're finding that you're not getting a clear line on something, if because up to that point it's quite clear, and then you're getting like this floodlight here. That is down to ambient light. So with your CM in particular, with the DX you don't get this as much, but with the CM it doesn't like having light behind it, and at the moment the sun is coming out and it's quite low, so it is shining in my craft room lovely, which is gorgeous, but it doesn't help the CM very much. So now that you can see the difference between the colour and the black and white, I'm going to also show you another little trick. So with neither version could we get hold of these tags individually. So where do we go from there? I'm going to go home and let it all reset. I'm going to unload the mat. And let's clear a bit of space. You know me, end up working in like 2 centimetres space. And let's go move my camera back, and let's go to overhead. There we go. This is when we can use our tracing paper. So normal stationery tracing paper will do, just mine's gone. I have some without leaf, don't know where. Can't believe I've used it all, but wouldn't surprise me. So now with your translucent paper or your tracing paper over the top, first thing you're going to want to do is actually tape it down. So you could use some purple tape, you can use masking tape. I am going to very carefully use a little of my super duper masking tape. Now what I would say is, because you're putting this onto a sticky surface, detack your masking tape first. So that we can remove it after. And I'm going to put a bit at the top and stick it down well to your mat. So that's why you detack it, so that you can stick it down to your mat. Because the last thing you want is any of this tape lifting or peeling away inside your machine. So usually in terms of adhering stuff to the mat, I don't recommend tape. There's only a couple of occasions when I do. And that's when we're using the foil quill mainly. And this. So if ever you find that your machine isn't acting as intended, do always check to see if there's anything that has come off. It could be a stray bit of cotton that just upsets it and means that mats won't load and things like that. Okay. So now I'm going to get a pencil, and if it helps you feel steadier, don't be afraid to use a ruler, especially with something that is very much straight edged. Actually, I'm going to use a mechanical pencil for that, because it just feels a little bit more accurate. If I can find mine, that is. There it is. I knew it was there somewhere. There we go. So. Now bear in mind when you place your ruler that your pencil will sit slightly off it. And you only want to go as far as your design goes, don't go past it. Like so. I'm going to do the same on the other side.
Sorry, I don't know that, but you have seen some enabled. Do you want to open it?
Go away. Honestly. I usually mute her, but how did anything I say then sound like that word that we won't say? There we go. So then that. And down there. Now, if you have a circle stencil, that's a really easy way of doing your nice round corners, so that you can get them nice and even. But if not, it's only little, so we'll try and do it by hand. Don't be afraid to rotate your work. Right. I'm just going to draw in the corners. And at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to do that with a pencil than it is a knife. Okay, we're nearly there. So there's our tag, and hopefully you'll be able to see that line. Now, just because we've got this dark colour here, I am going to just grab my ruler. I'm just going to make it a little bit stronger so that we can know for sure that it's going to see it. There we go. So now we can load that back in our machine. Go back to close cam. Yay! And scan, direct cut, machine, and make sure that you change your mode back to black and white. Okay, and press play. So now you can see that it's got kind of a muted area around, and you can just about see your outline there. We're going to go OK, and there's our nice outline that we've done. We're going to shrink that down so it's just to the left of our traced area. We're going to pull that up like so. We're going to go preview. We're going to go OK, and so long as that's the only shape on our cutting mat, we can go to cut. Now before you do, let's angle my camera a bit so you can see, and go back overhead. So hopefully you can just about see that. You want to take off your tracing paper before you go to cut, because otherwise obviously it's going to have to cut through two things, one of which is only held by those two bits of masking tape. So very gently take that off. Just stick that on there for a minute, and we can go cut. And there you are, we've got a tag. Now because those tags are all the same shape, you could also use that same bit of tracing paper to do this tag here, but you couldn't use it on this one or this one because they go right to the edge of the paper. So that's the important thing to bear in mind. If it goes to the edge, just don't do it. We could also cut out this panel here, maybe using that same method, but a different space on our tracing paper. So just because you've got one element on your tracing paper doesn't mean that that's then redundant. We could still put that back in. Let's go for that side there, and you could still draw that out, and so long as you then resize that frame inwards, you'll be okay. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of direct cut. If there's any questions or anything you'd like me to try before we go, now's the opportunity. So while you're thinking and typing, let's take off our piece of paper. Okay. So where we cut out our little floral design, you'll see that there's a little circle that goes round that design. And what we're going to do is we can actually cut that circle out something else and pop up our flower design on top. So let's see if I can grab some white card. It doesn't have to be a very big piece. One of the things I love about the Scan and Cut is that it's a really easy way of using up all your offcuts. Easier than any other cutting machine because you've got that background scan function. And let's grab my ruler. I'm going to measure my circle, and we're looking at about 4 centimeters. So I'm going to go OK, home. I'm going to go into my settings and put it onto millimeters because I find it easier to measure things in centimeters. Button. And we want the circle. So 4 centimeters is 40 millimeters. And I'm going to add that to my mat. Now this card's a little bit thicker, so I'm going to pop my blade up a bit. And there we go. And we have a circle. And I'll just quickly cut out the rest of that design by hand. Ian's also asked, those of you that would like to have the notebook direct from us that are in the UK, that's the important bit, I'm not doing international shipping on it. Can you please drop us a message so we know how many to order so that we can get those on order? Just so I know outright who's buying from Amazon and who wants to buy from us. So I'm going to unload my mat. And let's drop the camera down that way. It's better. So you can see in our original panel we had white circle. So I've just done that over the top. Now the other thing you can do is if you wanted to have that hole out the middle as a cut file, if you use the same black card technique that I was using yesterday with Scan to Cut Data, you can actually save that outside shape so that you could then put an offset on it and put a darker panel around the outside of the flower. But just for now I'm going to pop that on there with a little bit of glue. So where it's white we can add our glue. If there's anything where it's just caught a little bit, just smooth it out first. Gives you a bit of a bigger area then for your glue. those of you that are new, the glue I'm using is Stix 2 3D PVA. And I found that one's kind of the quickest setting for me. And apply that over the top. And let's get our flower around the right way. There we go. So if you want to, you can use a glue dot to pop that up a little bit. I won't go full on 3D foam pad because you haven't got that kind of whole section at the back filled in. But a glue dot will give a little bit of rise. But for now, just because it's quicker, I'm just going to put some glue on it. Line that up like so. There we go. So we've taken our flat embellishment and actually turned it into a layered one. So you can actually see layers. With our tag, now sometimes you'll find that with your scanner cut, it doesn't get things quite where you want it to. So if you are getting like a outline, and if you rub your finger on it, it doesn't feel quite straight where the join is, it can mean that it's time to recalibrate your machine. So I'm going to get Ian to do a maintenance stream. Unfortunately, it's not going to be in the 8 o'clock slot now because Ian's had his shifts change for the rest of the week. So I will try and endeavour to get him to do that at some point one evening. I'll smile sweetly. Probably not Friday though, because I'm already streaming twice on Friday, and that'd be mad. Okay. So, any questions? Let's bring those in so you can see we've got our butterflies that are hiding. There we go. We've got our flowers with our offset. And if anybody is interested and wants to see a bit more about what's in the pad, you get lots of different cut parts, so not just the tags and things, you get an alphabet, you get bows that you can then fold round and assemble. You've got little photo frames, little gift cards, so it's the sort of thing that makes an ideal little mini album set. And I got the bundle, so you've got lots of embellishments and things that match as well. And I believe, I could be wrong, I believe you have to go to Creative Crafting World to get it. I don't think it is available on Create and Craft. Any last questions before I go? You're welcome, Linda. And I'm glad you found it useful. So do drop us a message if you would like one of the notebooks. It's going to take about 2 weeks for us to get them in because author copies always seem to take ages. But that's okay, because they get here eventually. So if you are ordering from Amazon, you're very lucky because I haven't even seen a copy of the book yet. And I know they're starting to be delivered now, so that's cool. That's good to know, Sally. You'll have to send me a few little snapshots of it so I can see what it looks like. Did you go for the paperback or the hardback version? And thank you, Thea. That's okay, Angela. You can always go back and catch up, either on YouTube or Facebook. Twitch keeps it on there for a little while, so I think it's about 48 hours. But Facebook and YouTube, it stays up indefinitely until I decide. Actually, that one probably wasn't a good day. Because at the end of the day, I do this most days and everybody has an off day. So there was one earlier in the week that it wasn't good. I was not with it. So, take care, and I will see you tomorrow when we will be doing... Shall I show you a little bit on actually using it as a scanner? Because I haven't really done that yet, and show you how that works, so that you know where to find your scans, because I found that a bit tricky, particularly with the DX. So I might pop a little bit of a scan through. That'd be quite fun. And the other technique I thought of that we haven't really done a lot of, and that's using the actual inbuilt designs in terms of making stencils and things like that. So going a little bit back to what Carol was saying about stencils, you can actually use the inbuilt designs to make some layering stencils too. So take care, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 8 o'clock because I'm mad. Bye for now. And if you do want any help, I will be around for most of the day. Take care.